Some houses welcome you in with warmth. Others, they watch you, waiting. Welcome to Paranormal Night Shift, your home for everything that goes bump in the dark, where we bring your fan-submitted stories to life. Tonight's chilling tale comes from Sydney, titled The House That Haunted Me. But before we step into the shadows, if you're a fan of the eerie and unexplained, we've got something special for you. Head over to paranormalnightshift.com and grab your free copy of The Birth of Dimensional Desperado, the first ebook in the Dimensional Desperado series. It's a supernatural adventure you don't want to miss. Now, get comfortable if you dare, because Sydney's story isn't just about a haunted house. It's about what happens when something inside the darkness starts watching you back. Let's begin. Some memories, no matter how much time passes, refuse to fade. They linger, lurking in the shadows of your mind, resurfacing at the most unexpected moments. My experience with the unknown began when I was 12, during what should have been an exciting time, house hunting with my family. But one afternoon, we found a house that was wrong. From the moment we pulled into the driveway, a sense of unease settled deep in my stomach, twisting like a knot I couldn't untangle. It didn't make sense. The house looked normal enough, almost cheerful in a forced way. Turquoise shutters framed the windows. The front door was a bright, obnoxious yellow, and the siding was lime green, colors meant to evoke warmth and happiness. But no amount of paint could hide the oppressive energy that clung to it like a thick fog. I remember standing there, staring at the house, while my parents chatted excitedly about the price and location. My sister tugged at my sleeve, eager to explore, but I hesitated. Every fiber of my being screamed at me to stay outside, not to go in, but I did. The moment we crossed the threshold, an invisible weight pressed down on my chest, and I knew this house wasn't just wrong, it was terrible. I followed my family through the rooms, trying to ignore the creeping sensation of being watched. The walls, despite their vibrant colors, felt suffocating. Shadows pooled in the corners, darker than they should have been in the afternoon light. I could feel something watching us, its presence lingering beyond my sight. Then we went into the basement. As soon as I stepped onto the creaky wooden stairs, a wave of pure unfiltered dread crashed over me. My heart pounded in my chest, and my stomach churned. The air grew heavier with every step, thick with something I couldn't explain. Halfway down, a sudden, overwhelming nausea hit me so hard, I thought I might collapse right there. I needed to get out. I bolted up the stairs, ignoring my parents' confused shouts, and stumbled into the open air, gulping it down like drowning. I stood there, trembling, sweat beading on my forehead, while the others continued their tour inside. The sickness clung to me for days afterward, draining me in a way I'd never experienced before. I thought it would pass, that it was all in my head. I was wrong. I was curled up in my room with a book a week later, when that same oppressive feeling returned, thick, suffocating, and inescapable. The air grew ice-cold, and a heavy silence settled over the house. I tried to shake it off, but then I heard it. A soft creak. I looked up just in time to see the beautiful crystal cross my grandmother had given me. Something I had always treasured fall from the shelf and shatter. It scared me in a way nothing else had before. The cross had been securely placed high on the shelf, where it couldn't have fallen. It felt like a message, a warning. From that moment on, things escalated. At first, it was the small things, faucets turning on themselves, the toilet flushing in the middle of the night, objects moving from where I'd left them. My closet door would rattle softly in the dark, as if someone, or something, was inside, trying to get out. Then my dog changed. He used to sleep beside my bed every night, a loyal and comforting presence. But suddenly, he refused to come into my room. He would sit at the doorway, ears pinned back, growling at the space. Some nights he would bark at seemingly nothing, his eyes locked on a spot in the corner of the room. One evening, while watching TV in the living room, he suddenly leaped off the couch and bolted toward my bedroom, snarling. My stomach turned as I followed him. The moment I stepped inside, I saw it. A figure, black, ominous, watching. It stood in the farthest corner of my room, barely distinguishable against the shadows, but I knew it was there. My dog released a terrified yelp and slid back across the floor, as if something had struck him. The overhead light flickered wildly, casting erratic shadows across the walls. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, everything went still. I couldn't breathe. After that, things got worse. I started waking up in places I couldn't explain, on the floor at the foot of my bed, inside my closet, even on my knees, as if I had been praying in my sleep. Strange scratches and bruises appeared on my arms and legs, ones I knew weren't there the night before. Sleep became terrifying, something I actively avoided. One night, I felt it more potent than ever. That same sickness, that same dread. I kept leaving my room, pacing the hallway to try and shake it off, but the moment I stepped back inside, the air turned heavy again. My dad, frustrated and tired, ordered me back to bed. I shared a room with my younger sister, and not long after I lay down, she whispered, "Do you feel like we're being watched?" I barely had time to answer before we both saw it. A black figure stood in the corner of the room, where the shadows were darkest. It didn't move or make a sound, but I could feel it staring at us with an intensity that made my blood run cold. It looked at me like I was prey, like it was waiting. We screamed. My parents rushed in, turning on the light, but the figure was gone by then. My dad dismissed it as our imagination, but I saw the fear in his eyes. On the other hand, my mom wasn't willing to take any chances. She called a close friend, a woman who practiced witchcraft and energy work. When she arrived, the energy in the house shifted instantly. She walked through the rooms, murmuring prayers and incantations, lighting sage, and placing protective charms. She told me something I already knew deep down. I had unknowingly opened a portal. My sensitivities and depression at the time made me a perfect target. I begged for my abilities to be shut off. I didn't want to see or feel these things anymore, and for years they were. Life went back to normal. The house was sold. The presence, whatever it was, left me alone. But lately, something's changed. I feel it creeping back, stirring inside me like an old wound reopening. I've learned one thing from all of this. The unseen is real. Some things protect you, some things want to harm you, and sometimes you don't know which is which until it's too late. I hope I never experience anything like that again, but deep down, I fear I will. With that being said, Sydney, thank you so much for sharing your story. Now, if you have a story of your own that you'd like to submit, you can do so right here on Paranormal Night Shift. And before we go, if you're enjoying the show and want to support what we do, consider joining us on Patreon. Not only will you get an ad-free listening experience, but you'll also get to hear new episodes a week early and gain exclusive access to all future journeys in the Dimensional Desperado ebook series. But hey, if Patreon isn't your thing, you can still support us by subscribing to the podcast on Spotify and YouTube. And while you're there, drop us a comment. We'd love to hear what you thought about this episode. And one last thing, don't forget to grab your free copy of The Birth of Dimensional Desperado, the first ebook in the series. Just head over to paranormalnightshift.com and it's yours. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Paranormal Night Shift.